If you are a person with Asperger syndrome, the chances are that you were taught from day one that there's something a little bit off about you, and that perception, that self-perception has been reinforced throughout your life. For example, say that you were sent off to elementary school as a little kid, 5, 6, 7 years old, and you played sports. And you found that you were always the last one chosen for the team. Well, that taught you a lesson. That athletically, that you are inferior, that you don't have the coordination skills that other kids have, and you were not allowed to participate in social activities. Maybe around a lunch table, you were the one who was ignored or set aside. And in some cases, well, really many cases, you were physically bullied. So you have this reinforcement over and over and over again that there is something innately wrong with you, and that has been so reinforced so many times over so many years that you have come to embrace it and accept it as reality. What we want to know is this: how do we reclaim our true selves? How do we overcome this false perception that we are somehow inferior to other people? Now, by the way, everyone has their shortcomings and everyone has their talents, some more than others, some less than others. But everyone is a person of value. So what I want to know is, what have I learned over my life that has taught me, not that I am inferior, but that I'm perfectly okay. I'm not inferior. I'm not superior. I'm just me. I'm okay being me. And what can I do in the future going forward to reclaim who I truly am? Got 6 things for you. Number 1 is we need to have what I call an honest evaluation. So that would include the positive things and the negative things. Now, I did a video, I think it was last week, where I encouraged people to make a list of all the things about you that are positive. And that's amazing. You can actually sit down all day long and think of things about you that are positive. For example, you didn't die of a heart attack yesterday, did you? Well, that's a positive thing. You have eyesight, right? That's a positive thing, unless you don't. You have hearing. That's a positive thing. You live in the 21st century. That's a positive thing. You live at a time in history when people are prosperous. I mean, you could literally think of things about yourself personally that are positive. I mean, can you walk? Can you get up and move around? You know, a lot of people can't do that. Do you have the ability to speak and to listen and learn? You got all those things. You have so many positive traits about you that you just can't count them all. But what has happened in your life is others have emphasized the negatives, the things that where you don't quite measure up to them, and they have convinced you that you are somehow flawed because of that, when in reality that was their flaw for pointing it out in the first place. And they're just comparing themselves to you so that they can build themselves up, build up their ego a little bit. Now, something that I have learned in life, I'm pushing 70 years old, I'm almost 70. And the thing that I've learned over these decades is that you can't rely on other people to reinforce your positive attributes, because it just seems to go against human nature. People don't praise other people. I mean, they do, but usually it's self-serving when they do. Now, sometimes a parent will think that his kids are the smartest, best in the world, but that's just parents talking, And sometimes people will compliment you. Say, for example, you give a speech. Over my lifetime, I've given probably thousands of public speeches. I was a pastor for 12 years. I love public speaking. And I would get up sometimes and I'd give a speech, maybe it was political, whatever. It doesn't matter how good I did or how bad I did. I could just give the worst speech in the world. I could just flat out lay an egg. I mean, bore everyone to tears. And afterwards, somebody would come up and compliment me on my great speech. I mean, people do that as a courtesy. They don't really mean that I did well. What they mean is, I'm going to shake your hand, say hi, and I don't know what else to say. So I'm going to say, good job. Well, that's not the type of encouragement that we need. We need true, genuine, positive, realistic feedback. And when we do something poorly, we need to be told, here's what you did wrong, and here's how you can fix it. Not too many people are willing to do that, and even if they do, typically it will have a bias that favors them. So people are always comparing themselves to others, and they always like to notice that they're somehow better. You know, we said this before, but people sometimes will say that someone else needs to be taken down a peg or two, but nobody ever says somebody needs to be taken up a peg or two. That's because that's part of human nature. We like to put others down. Now, the reason I say all that when it comes to honest evaluation, feedback from others needs to be filtered through their biases. By and large, the positive feedback is going to come from one person, and that's you. And other people will say, man, if you give yourself positive feedback, isn't that arrogance? Doesn't that smack of narcissism? Well, yeah, if it's dishonest, it does. But if you're just being honest and you're noticing, I do have this positive trait, and I'm going to take note of it. And I'm going to, if you want to know what to do, take note of what you do poorly at, take note of what you do well, and do the things you do well. I mean, what's so hard about that? Number 2 is this. Realize that you are, in fact, a work in progress. Now, when we talk about a work in progress, what we mean is, and this should be kind of obvious, but what we mean is that we're not done yet. We talk in other videos about a potter and making a vessel out of clay, and we are always being formed, that we are always learning something. I learned things yesterday that I did not know the day before. And I learned things today that I would not have known tomorrow had I not lived today. So today you're learning something. So what we need to do is grasp this reality that we are in a learning process. And we need to focus our minds so that we are learning correctly, not learning falsehoods. Because we can embrace lies. I mean, there are people out there who truly, honestly believe the world is flat. And if you tell them, no, I'm pretty sure it's round, they get mad and argue with you. In fact, there could be some people listening to me right now that are just incensed that I would dare mention that the world is round. But it is. The earth is round. The point of that is we got to give ourselves honest feedback. We are a work in progress, and we have to acknowledge that. Number 3, we need to embrace changes that come into our lives. Now, some of those are positive, some of them are negative, some of them are by design, some of them are quite accidental. For example, catch a cold. Did you plan on catching a cold? Did you plan on catching the flu or whatever? Probably not, but those things come into your life, and you learn from them. One of the things you learn is how not to catch cold. Something else you learn is how to treat a cold. You learn those things. But we need to embrace change that comes into our life, even if it's negative. We embrace it. That doesn't mean we like it, but we acknowledge that we are in this set of circumstances, and it's our responsibility to do the best that we can where we are at this very moment. And if you think it's somebody else's responsibility, well, it's just consider a bonus if somebody else comes and helps. And I think they should. We should help each other. But sometimes they don't. Or sometimes their help is insufficient. Typically, their help is non-existent, and it's usually they're trying to kick us down more than try to build us up. The point is, we need to embrace change, and we need to assume responsibility for that change. Whatever the change is, good or bad, we need to assume responsibility because, yeah, it's nice if someone else helps. But if we count on that, chances are we're going to face some serious, serious problems. Number 4 is we kind of alluded to this a moment ago, but we need to learn from those experiences because, as we said, we are a work in progress. So if you go through life and you don't learn anything, you're just cutting yourself short. You're robbing yourself of some valuable information. The reason we learn from the past is so that we can apply what we've learned to the future. So it's springtime, and we have a robin who's laid some eggs in a nest in our backyard on our shed. And so we've watched as the eggs hatched, and the little, don't call them babies, call them chicks, were fed by their mother, and then they started to learn how to fly, and they leapt out of the nest, and they kind of walk around in the grass. They're learning to fly. They're not there yet, but they're learning from experience. And if you walk up to them, they try to get away, and just by instinct, they try to fly. They are experiencing flight for the first time, and they're learning from that. Well, if they never try, then they're not going to learn. they're just going to spend their life, and it's going to be a very short life, walking around in the grass because, they're critters that don't see them as cute little chicks, robin chicks. They see them as dinner. All right, so how are we going to learn from experience? Well, number one is we need to have some kind of a goal, and what we have to do is practice our goals. What kind of a goal? Well, what do you want to accomplish? Whatever it is you want to accomplish, set a goal, a small step toward that end. Doesn't matter what it is. Say, for example, this may not be a very good goal, but say that you have a goal of reading a book. Well, read a page. There, you've accomplished your goal. Today, my goal is to read a book. Well, the book is 365 pages long. Okay, well, a year from now, you're going to be done, right? Small goal. Say that your goal is to lose weight. You could be 100 pounds overweight. I mean, I've actually lost 100 pounds. But how did you lose it? Well, you didn't lose it 100 pounds at a time, I guarantee you that. But what you do is you lose it by small goals. You bypass that one sandwich. You decide, nah, not going to have dessert. You just take that goal and you achieve it. It's just that simple. And after a while, those goals begin to compound. And pretty soon they add up and you see a noticeable change when you get on the scales. Then you get confident and you go back to eating again and you blow the whole thing. So you got to start over and you have learned. So you practice your goals. All right, that takes us to number 6. And this is the one that Aspies are not going to like. I know that because I don't like it. But number 6 is simply do this. Practice your fears. I still don't like it. Even after I said it, I still don't like it. I don't want to practice my fears. I do not feel comfortable talking to other people. I don't feel comfortable in small talk. But you know what? I find myself doing it anyhow. And it's cumbersome because when I try to talk to people, they immediately, most of them, immediately recognize I have a deficit in thinking when I'm trying to talk at the same time. When I'm having a one-on-one conversation. They immediately recognize it because I don't come across the same way that other people come across. There's something missing. There's something aloof. There's something, not aloof, but something loose in this guy's brain, and they're right. I'm just not wired the same way other people are. They think this guy's a little strange, and I know that. So what I have to do to get it right is I have to practice it. That's something that I fear, but I practice and I practice and I practice, and it gets better because there's this thing called neuroplasticity that if we keep doing it, it finally falls into place. It finally falls into line. Just like the little bird, flying out of its nest doesn't get it right the first time or the second time. It may take 100 times. I don't know, but eventually you get it. So you practice your fears. Looking people in the eye, I don't like to do that, but I practice. I've told you this in other videos. Look for the color of their eye. Well, now you're not looking in their eye. You're looking for the color in their eye. They don't know that. They think you're looking them in the eye. So play this little game with them. I'm going to look you in the eye until you look away. See if you can do that. They don't know that you're not looking them in the eye. They don't know you're playing a game with them. Well, sometimes they do, but yeah, they look away. Okay, fine. Now you can look away. But practice your fears. That's the only way I know to overcome them. Now, if you have a fear of venomous snakes, I suggest you do not practice that fear. There are some fears that you do not want to practice. For example, standing on a cliff that's, 500 feet to the bottom. Do not practice that fear. That's a fear that's there for a reason. But I'm talking about these phobic fears, these unrealistic fears that hamper our life in general. Those are the fears that we need to practice, we need to learn from. My apologies, I'm kind of losing my voice from talking all day long, but if you want the conversation to continue, all you got to do is click one of the 2 rectangles you see on the screen, and we'll keep on talking together. If not, thank you for stopping by, and we will see you all next time.